Fighter fired after backstage brawl. Dana White's unseen reaction to the locker room. Chaos. When the cameras go off and the crowd fades away, the real fights sometimes happen where no one's watching, backstage. But this time, the chaos couldn't stay hidden. A fighter was fired on the spot after an explosive locker room brawl that sent shockwaves through the UFC. Whispers of broken bottles, torn gloves, and a furious Dana White storming into the room. This wasn't part of the script. Today, we're diving into the backstage meltdown that cost one fighter his entire career, and the unseen reaction from the boss himself, Dana White. Because what happened that night changed more than just one contract. It changed the way the UFC handles fighters forever. Chapter 1. The calm before the chaos. It started like any other fight night. Bright lights, packed arena, and the rhythmic pulse of walkout music echoing through the tunnels of the T-Mobile Arena. Two fighters had just finished an intense bout, bruised, bloodied, and high on adrenaline. One of them, a rising star with a mouth as sharp as his jab, had just lost a close decision. The other, a veteran known for trash talk and mental warfare, wasn't ready to keep things professional after the final bell. What no one knew was that a storm was brewing backstage. Tensions had already been building all week, insults at press conferences, heated weigh-in stares, and late-night social media shots. And when emotions mix with exhaustion and ego, even the most disciplined fighter can snap. Chapter 2. The locker room explosion. Witnesses say the fight broke out less than 5 minutes after the loser returned backstage. Still dripping with sweat, gloves half off, he was pacing like a lion in a cage. Then boom, the door slammed open. The other fighter walked in, laughing, surrounded by teammates. He said one line, a mocking joke about the loss, and that was all it took. Suddenly, chaos. Punches flew, coaches screamed, water bottles and tape rolls flew through the air. Within seconds, the hallway turned into an all-out brawl. Fighters from other camps tried to separate them, but it was too late. The damage was done. A UFC staffer later said, "I've seen heated arguments before, but this was different. It was like they wanted to end each other." The altercation left one man bleeding from a cut above his eye, not from a sanctioned fight, but from a locker room war. Chapter 3. Security rushes in. Security stormed in. Trainers pulled people apart. Phones were confiscated. Cameras turned off. The UFC has strict backstage rules, no fighting after the fight. But in this case, those rules were already shattered. One fighter, still yelling, was restrained against the wall. The other was dragged down the hall, screaming profanities and demanding another round. Dana White was immediately informed, and within minutes, he was there. If you've ever seen Dana's reaction to chaos, you know he doesn't do subtle. He reportedly walked in, looked around at the damage, overturned chairs, blood on the floor, and said just one thing: "Who the F started this?" Chapter 4. Dana White's unseen reaction. Behind the scenes, Dana White has dealt with everything: steroid scandals, missed weight cuts, fighters brawling at pressers. But this was different. According to multiple sources inside the UFC, Dana was furious. Not because of the fight itself, but because the timing couldn't have been worse. It was fight night. The cameras were still rolling elsewhere, and sponsors were still in the building. The UFC's image was at stake. Dana reportedly told the fighters, "You think this is the WWE? You think you can throw hands backstage and still get paid? Not in my company." Within hours, one of the fighters, the one who threw the first punch, was cut from his contract. The UFC's legal team drafted the paperwork before the adrenaline had even worn off. That decision shocked fans and fighters alike. Some said Dana overreacted. Others said it was about time someone was made an example of. But what really set Dana off wasn't just the fight, it was what happened before it. Chapter 5. The hidden tensions. Behind every brawl, there's a build-up, and this one went deep. For weeks, these two fighters had been throwing verbal grenades at each other on social media. One accused the other of ducking fights. The other fired back with rumors about failed negotiations. Even UFC staff warned both camps to cool it before fight week. But in combat sports, rivalries sell tickets, and Dana knows that. So while the tension made great promotion, It also created a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. According to insiders, the fighter who got fired had already been on thin ice, missing media appearances, clashing with coaches, and ignoring UFC protocol. So when the brawl happened, it wasn't just one mistake, it was the final straw. Chapter 6. The Fallout. News of the brawl leaked within hours. At first, the UFC tried to keep it quiet. No official statement, no names released. But in the age of social media, nothing stays secret for long. Fans began piecing it together through cryptic tweets and deleted Instagram stories. A few grainy backstage photos appeared online, a bloodied towel, a broken water bottle, a fighter with a black eye. Within 24 hours, MMA Twitter was on fire. Who got fired? What really happened backstage? And most importantly, what did Dana do? Dana finally broke his silence in a press conference days later. His words were simple. You don't fight backstage. You don't disrespect the organization. That's it. Actions have consequences, but his tone said more than his words. Disappointment, frustration, and maybe even regret. Because the fighter he fired, he was supposed to be the next big thing. Chapter 7. The Lost Star. The man who lost everything that night wasn't some rookie. He was a fast-rising name, a fighter with championship potential and crossover appeal. Sponsors were lining up, fans loved his intensity, and the UFC saw dollar signs. But the moment that punch landed backstage, it was all gone. Endorsements pulled out, gyms distanced themselves. Even his manager dropped him within a week. He later went on record saying, "I let my emotions win. I lost my career because I couldn't control my ego." The other fighter, meanwhile, stayed silent, finishing his contract, giving carefully worded interviews and avoiding the spotlight. But inside the industry, everyone knew this was the fight that never should have happened. Chapter 8. Dana White's New Rule. After the chaos, Dana White reportedly enforced a new backstage code of conduct. Any fighter caught initiating violence outside the octagon would face immediate suspension or termination. No warnings, no negotiations. He also increased the number of security staff at events and added surveillance in locker areas, something that, surprisingly, wasn't standard before. Dana even addressed it during a private meeting with fighters, saying, "You want to fight? Do it in the octagon. You do it backstage. You're done." And just like that, the message was clear. No one is bigger than the sport. Chapter 9. The Legacy of the Brawl. Years later, the incident remains one of the most infamous unsanctioned fights in UFC history. Fans still speculate, YouTubers still dissect every rumor, and insiders still whisper about what really went down behind those closed doors. But one thing's undeniable, it changed the UFC forever. It reminded everyone that no matter how big the payday or how famous the fighter, the octagon is a business built on discipline and respect. And Dana White? He never forgot. In interviews since, whenever asked about backstage fights, he just smirks and says, "We've had a few idiots over the years, but they don't last long." At its core, this story isn't just about violence, it's about ego. Two men trained to fight, pushed beyond their limits, forgot the one rule that keeps everything in balance: control. And in that loss of control, a career was destroyed, a lesson was learned, and a line was drawn. So the next time you watch a heated stare-down or a wild press conference, remember the real fights sometimes happen after the bell rings. Because in the UFC, one punch can make you a legend or end your legacy. If you thought this was wild, wait till you hear about the time a fighter attacked his own coach mid-event. And what Dana did next will shock you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from behind the octagon.